Stephen.
Yep.
Do you know who doesn't know anything about football?
Me and you. That's correct. In sync. We've got no clue about football. So do you know what we decided to do? Let's bring in a really amazing, high-profile football player that's got an amazing football academy.
Exactly.
Talk to him. Mark came in a few days ago with his wife Siobhan, who's also the co-founder and business partner of Mark Malloy Soccer Stars. It's a huge company. It really is.
Massive.
I think they've got 75 locations across the UK. Now, you've got a bit of history with Mark because you had interviewed him a while back.
I interviewed him down the line about a year ago just to get some content run about franchising, and we built a kind of wee case study what it's like to be a franchisor and a franchisee at the same company. So we spoke to Mark down the line. I visited Laura, one of his franchisees who runs classes out of Ayrshire. So we went down there, shot some content in the day, got an interview. So it was a really nice wee package we managed to put together. But lovely guy. When I spoke to him first, he's in contact with our customer success team, James, all the time. He's always got really, really nice things to say about Mark, and when you see him in the flesh, it just backs up. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy to talk to.
Nice guy. I'm just thoroughly impressed with the way the two of them just adopt technology and just kind of go into it. I think that we'll go straight into this interview now, and we can catch up afterwards. But enjoy Mark Malloy and Siobhan Malloy. So we are here today with Mark and Siobhan Malloy. How did you guys meet?
Do you really want that story?
Well, as long as it's a good story, we can broadcast.
Many moons ago now.
Yeah.
Many moons ago.
Give us the kind of the whistle stop tour of it.
So we didn't actually go to the same school. We met through friends of friends, and it was actually in a nightclub. It was nothing
That's
really
old school.
romantic, to be honest.
It wasn't on an app.
No, it was definitely not
No,
an app.
definitely not an app.
I would be
Apps didn't
terrified.
exist back then.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
That was
That's showing our
20
age
odd
now.
years ago now.
Yep.
22
So
years.
we met in I don't know if you've heard of this club, but it was renowned for being an absolute amazing night in the Universe in Coatbridge.
No, I've not.
No.
No.
So that's where we met in there, and Mark just pestered me ever since.
So the universe brought you together.
Good one.
Come
There
on,
we go.
guys.
Right on the ball with
There
that
you
one,
go.
yeah.
Okay, so he pestered you.
Oh, million
We've
percent.
both got different versions there.
Okay, let's hear yours quickly.
We'll go somewhere in the middle of that, I'd say.
Okay, right. Okay, so there was mutual pestering.
Yes, I would say so.
I
Okay.
would definitely disagree, but okay.
You won't know this. The first video shoot that we ever went to when I was here, and I think the Class for Kids had done a couple of things in that content space before I was hired. I was hired and then pretty much quickly went into the a month in, and it was a pandemic.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So we were all kind of like, oh, well, I don't know how this job's going to go.
Yeah.
But as we were drifting out of it, thankfully, we started going, right, well, we need to get out to see clubs straight away. And it was one of your clubs.
Was it
Oh,
really?
It was
really?
Newcastle.
It
Oh,
was. I
that's
remember
right,
that.
What was his
actually.
name, the guy?
That would have
Gary.
been Gary.
Gary.
Yes.
He was a lovely guy.
Yeah.
So
Mark's
we were.
brother?
That's
we
my
were,
brother.
Is your brother?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, that's my brother.
Oh, very good. Is from Newcastle? Or?
No, he ran it from Newcastle.
Right, okay, cool.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
okay.
Oh no, the coach there
And yeah,
would
because
have
Gary was there as well, but there was a
Oh,
coach as
the
well.
coach. I don't know who the coach would have been at that
that
point.
time.
We've got video footage and stuff like that of it, but that was it. That was the first introduction to any kind of customer. It only struck me last night when I was thinking about this. I was like, oh, that's right, like literally the first.
Yeah.
So at that point, when was that? Be 2022.
Yeah, it would have been him.
How long had that part of the business been going there? Like specifically the Newcastle bit. How long did it take to kind of get further afield like that? Because it started in Glasgow, yeah.
It did, yeah.
Right.
It kind of went quite rapidly, didn't it? So we kind of got all the franchise territories all mapped out. And Scotland, all the franchises in Scotland kind of went within about 4 months,
Right.
I think. So
Right.
at that point, it was.
I've probably jumped a good bit here, haven't I? So let me just quickly backtrack. You've met. What made you start the business together? I suppose that's obviously there was opportunity there, but what and when did that happen for both of you?
Well, we both worked. Mark was a teacher at the time.
Okay.
PE teacher.
Right. Okay.
And he was off for 7 weeks throughout the summer, which still to this day, like.
Siobhan says I was off, but I was looking after the two boys. That's harder than teaching. You'll probably
Mark would-
understand that.
Mark would occasionally phone me at work. My background's marketing, so
Okay.
I worked for an engineering company at the time, and Mark would frequently phone me at work. Now, I was busy at work, right? I didn't have the luxury of having 7 weeks off in the summer. So he would phone me up at work and he'd be like, what time are you going to be home? And I'm like, well, I work till 5, so I'll be home after 5. And he's like, they two are just absolutely up the wall today, Siobhan, like, hurry up and come home. And you're like, I'm in and out of meetings and I've got him phoning on my phone, like, when are you going to be home? And I'm like, he's driving me nuts.
I used to go to work for a break.
So
I'm in that state right now.
Yes.
I'm here.
so that's why I said to Mark, I was like, obviously you're off for 7 weeks. Why don't you start up your own football coaching class? And the reason why we were talking about that is because our oldest son Louis was just about to start nursery in the August.
Okay.
And he was so quiet, so shy, and in social settings really just kind of went into himself.
Okay.
And we were really worried about him starting nursery because we thought he's never really left us before. The only people that would watch him would be Mark's mum and dad and my mum. He'd never really stayed with anyone else. So Mark had said, right, no, that's a good idea. And I think that we could potentially do this to try and bring him out of his shell as well and improve his social skills or whatever. And there was nothing really in our area at that time to help with that. It was more just kind of like grassroots football, and that was just that kind of environment Louis just shied away from. He was terrified of that.
Very different environment.
Very, very different. So yeah, we started it in, like, we lived in Chapel Hall in Airdrie at the time, and Mark started it in the local primary school on a Saturday morning. And I think just because of Mark's reputation, coming from Chapel Hall, he was a villager, as they call him.
Once a village,
And obviously with his football background, everyone knew about Mark's football background. Like, people then were like, oh, this must be a good wee class. I'm going to go and send my kids to this. And then from there, it just kind of grew arms and legs.
So that's it. I mean, for want of a better, you had that cool name to hang things on. You had that superhero name.
Debatable.
So your background was Celtic?
Yes,
Right,
yes.
okay. Speak up about that a little bit then. From, like, so obviously you were into football. We spoke over lunch when you were a kid. You were like early in old school football when you had the jackets down as goals
Exactly,
and stuff.
the good old days.
The good old training days. God, even I played then.
Yes.
I knew a little bit about it then. So how did you get involved with Celtic?
Yeah, so that was a bit of a funny one. So I was quite fortunate as I was growing up. Obviously I'd done fairly well at football, so I had a lot of kind of teams that basically wanted to sign me.
Yep.
So I'd go down south a lot. I would go to Chelsea and Arsenal and Man City and Everton. And
What age is this?
I would have been 12 at that point. Yeah, 12 at that point. Yeah, so great memories. Really fortunate. My mum and dad would come down. We'd play different teams, and yeah, so I had a few teams at that point that really wanted to sign me. So they'd made offers and stuff as I kind of got older. And then when I was 14, I was still going about all the different kind of clubs. I was playing for Celtic in Scotland, but obviously going down south to play with these other clubs as well. And actually Celtic at this point had actually said to me, if you're not going to sign with us, you can't kind of continue to play with us. So I actually left Celtic and played with Kilmarnock up in Scotland, ironically, but still went down with and was going down south a lot. And I was always going to sign this team down south. Hadn't quite made up my mind what one, but that was always kind of the intention to do it. And then when I was 14, I was actually playing a year older for Scotland in the time. There's a competition called the Victory Shield, which is still on obviously at the moment on Sky. And then we were playing England, and 5 minutes into the game, kind of ball goes through, and I've went through with the keeper, and I've tried to knock it under him. Probably shouldn't have went in for it. And we've had a clatter together, and that's when I broke my thigh. At that point, yeah. So,
Jeez, oh.
I basically shattered my femur at that point. Obviously taken to hospital and stuff. And from
sorry,
that,
what age were you at that point then?
14.
14, right?
14.
Okay. Jeez,
Yeah,
oh
14.
my God, eh?
14. So at that point, Chelsea basically came in and says, "We're going to do your rehab." So Chelsea was probably who I was going to sign for.
Yeah.
They'd made an offer. My mum and dad was moving down with me, and we were going to live in London, and that was all kind of pretty much agreed. So they done my rehab. So I would go down there for 2 weeks every month to do rehab. And that was great as well, because the thing that I love about Chelsea is that was probably just after France won the World Cup in '98. So you'd go in, you'd be mixing with Desailly and LeBeouf and Zolas and all these kind of guys as well, and that was great. And even get through the rehab, they would train alongside me
That's
as
amazing
well and
work,
do
yeah.
that. So yeah, I used to actually share a house with John Terry at that point as well when he lived in his dig. So I'd been sharing it with John Terry and another guy, John Harley. So John Terry would take me to training in the morning to do the rehab and stuff like that as well. But unfortunately, so that the rehab overall took about 2 years.
Right, okay.
Um,
And
I-
was that, as you say, going up and down?
yeah.
How
So
often?
every month
Right,
for about
okay.
a week to 2 weeks every month. They would fly me down, do the rehab, back again. And yeah, so that was kind of agreed, and having pins and plates and all that, it was a case of after a year they had to come out. That would then set me back another year for all that thing. So overall, it kind of took 2 years. And then the physio took me out in the field one day. We'd done a bit of work and stuff, and had a little bit of pain in my knee, but nothing major. We thought it was coming from the screw initially, so we basically took to see the specialist in London at that point. Got obviously all the scans and stuff, and after a week or so, he came back and says, "Look, the damage is a bit more than what we thought, and I don't think you're going to be able to play professionally, or it could have an impact on you kind of playing professionally."
Jeez, oh.
So yeah, so that was a wee bit of a hard one. But
After all that time as well.
after
isn't it?
2 years,
And in that time when you were, so you said it there, like the physio took you out on the pitch. Had that never happened before?
I
And all
didn't-
that time you never played?
I
it was just-
basically after a year when I was able to walk and run again, I kicked the ball once,
Right.
and then literally the next day I was taken to hospital to get pins and plates and everything
Jeez,
back out
right,
again.
okay.
And that was me back on crutches and all that kind of stuff again. So I literally had to learn how to
Yeah.
walk and run essentially from scratch. But that was, I kind of got through all of that process, and then obviously got that news. And then at that point, Chelsea, they still made me an offer, but it was a bit different from the initial one. And I just felt at that point, do they want me as much as what they did before?
Okay.
And I thought, I don't quite think they do. So at that point, I decided to basically stay closer to home.
And that was your decision. I mean, what you said something before, right? Which, as a parent and you as a parents now, you said, "Oh, my parents were just prepared to drop everything and move to London."
Yeah,
Well, that's amazing. Really supportive parents.
yeah, yeah.
Did you make the decision in the end about Chelsea, or was that a kind of collective decision?
No, it was my decision.
Right.
Mum and Dad were always the case. This is
Again,
always
that's
your
great,
decision.
that's great
Yeah,
parenting.
you
That's good, isn't it?
you have to decide, and yeah, that if I'm ever in the same situation with our boys, I would be the same as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
because I think
absolutely.
it's important.
I
But
would
yeah,
force mine into doing what I wanted them to do, but that's fine.
but that's essentially then what I decided. Thought I'm going to stay at home. I want to be closer to home now, and I signed with Celtic at
Right,
that point.
okay.
So
Brilliant.
that's kind of how it.
Wow, I mean,
Yeah.
I generally, obviously, as everybody knows that listens to this, I'm not so well versed in football. Is maybe the best way to put it. I didn't realise there was such a big story there, and the kind of rehab sort of side of things as well. I wasn't really aware that a club would do that. We go, right, well, we're going to take care of you now. I thought you were going to say, and then they said, right, you're ditched, and I was like, oh my god, that's horrific. But no, that's amazing. And like, yeah, it's quite the story. It's quite the story.
Chelsea were.
So the time you went in, you were what, 16 by the time you were in
by the
Celtic?
time I then went to Celtic, I was
Just
16.
as you
Yeah.
were kind of meeting, well, you met a year later type
I
thing.
met about a year
A year
ago.
later, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm jumping all over the place time wise in this,
No,
but I quite
that's
like it. We'll be
fine.
able to kind of put it back together. in
Yeah,
order.
absolutely.
So the business has started,
Mhm.
right? You've got one classer, presumably, yeah. How long did it stay one class? When did you go? Actually, wait a minute here. Or again, for the both of you, I'm just
I know, it's trying to think back. It was quite. So when we got the idea, Siobhan says, "Why don't you try a wee football class for Louis?" It was obviously the
yeah.
scary
Did that all
thing.
work well then? Did that bring him out his shell and things like that?
Oh,
For it?
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
It
totally
sounds like he's the kind of inception behind all this. When you really dig it back, your
100%.
boy.
We say this all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Louis,
and Louis now tells us as well.
I know,
and you
Louis
know,
loves to remind us.
this is not by any means the first time I've spoke to people about how they set up their business, and their child
Mhm.
was the first. Do you know Rich Elms, Baby Boss?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
He's
yeah,
got the same story.
yeah.
It was
Oh,
all about
really?
his son. It was really, really quiet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Son actually turned out to have autism, but it was all about him, and that was
Yeah.
it to begin with. So it's dead interesting.
I think that's why people, like, when we tell this story to people, like, people resonate with it
Yeah.
so much. And I think that's why, like, any social media post that we put out about our journey, like, we always get amazing engagement about this, because people are like, I didn't realise that. I didn't realise this was because of Louis, and try to bring him out of shell. And then when we'd done that, we realised that actually Louis isn't a minority. Like, because we used to always think, oh God, that's a shame. Like, he's never
many kids
comes
out
out of
there.
shell in social settings. So you would always think, what's like, not what's wrong with him, but like, is he ever going to go over this or whatever? And then actually we realised, wait a minute here, there's so many other kids
Yeah.
I've got
out
one
there
from both
like
camps.
him.
I've got one that's like totally extrovert and would jump about daft, and I've got one that's really, really shy.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the one that's the quite happy to sit in front of just strangers and talk, he has autism. And he was diagnosed a few years ago with that, but he's the one that's quite like, I'll jump up on that stage if you want, no bother. He doesn't get embarrassed.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
That's a kind of, he's got like an embarrassment which can be good and bad. But then the other one who's just kind of, he's just dead shy, and you're like, he's great in the house, then you go out and he's just like,
Yeah.
and it's weird as parents because I'm like, well, I'm not shy. You guys don't
Yeah.
seem like you're shy, so it's
No.
kind
And
of
it's probably even more common as well with COVID. You see it all the time with the COVID babies now.
these
and
poor
they are
kids, you know that?
absolutely-
Honestly, you don't realise how important it is for kids to socialise
social
from such a
interaction
young
part.
age.
exactly the age that ours are at, because as you
Yeah.
said, they're fairly similar. That hit that they took then, you know, because
I
you've
know.
got the 11 or 12, 11,
Yeah,
11.
11.
So he's 2 years at home, you know, and at that prime point where you're meant to be developing and talking and
Yeah.
making all these
100%.
friends for life.
Absolutely.
I just can't fathom it, because those were the times that I was out in the woods cutting my knees and
Yes.
climbing
That's
trees.
it.
Yep, and it's a different world these days, isn't it?
Totally different
They
world.
really don't. But yeah, no, as I said, so we obviously Siobhan, it was Siobhan's idea. Why don't I start a class? And I thought, okay, let's do it. And it was scary putting my name out there,
Yeah.
because it's Mark's now going to do a football class.
Yep.
And Siobhan had to create the Facebook page and all this kind of stuff. I had no idea what to do. And the first kind of class was friends and family, and who can we get in?
Yep.
Who can I drag in and to make this a class? And then, yeah, it probably within a few months, it kind of get more inquiries, and people were saying, oh, would you do this? And that was great, because then I could then hire the school out a little bit longer, and I could narrow the age group down a wee bit more and start working on that, and start thinking about, well, what are these kids interested in? And that's where kind of the full themes idea came from as well. And then I just run that one venue for several months, quite a long time. Because although I was getting a lot of inquiries from other areas, it's like, well, I can't be in two places at once.
Yeah.
So how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And then I'm having to think, I'll have to bring a coach in, but what if they're not that good, or what if they don't keep the same standards, or so that was a scary time when I actually decided, right, I'm going to open a second venue now,
Yeah.
and I'm going to bring a coach in to run that second venue, and launch that. So that was kind of probably the first.
So where was
First
the
big
second venue?
It was in Coatbridge.
Okay.
So I moved from kind of Airdrie then, or Chapel, to Coatbridge, and that filled straight away.
Right.
It's pretty much quickly, but that went really, really well, and I thought, right, okay, so this could work, but it was never set up to be a business. That just never was. It was set up for Louis, and then it wasn't until 6, 7, 8 months down the line we thought, well, actually, if I do open a second one, we could
Yeah.
maybe make it work. So
So you were still working?
yes.
Right, okay. And presumably you're not now?
No,
Right,
no,
okay.
I'm fortunate enough. So yeah, no, I was a PE teacher, and I worked Monday to Friday, and then done the classes on the Saturday morning.
So this was, initially it was a Saturday thing then, yeah?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
And it was purely for Louis. And like I eventually grew a wee side hustle.
So from that, right, which was, sounds like a nice, even that would have been a nice little business, yeah? Whose idea was franchising? I don't know why I want to look at you, because I feel like marketing background, I don't know, but I may be wrong.
No, because actually, out of the both of us, I was the one that was always like, Mark would literally go 100 miles an hour and he'd be like, and I want to do this, and I want to do
Okay.
this, and I want to grow, and I want to go. And I'm like, I'm there with you, I'm with you, I'm supporting you, but can we put the brakes on a wee second? Like, let's just rein it in for a minute. So I was always the one in his head thinking, or saying to him, just let's let's hold
She's a sensible
back.
one.
Sensible one. Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think that.
I know I don't look it.
Okay, so you're going, let's franchise.
Yeah.
You try to put the brakes on a little bit, but then again, as the universe gets involved.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you decide to go ahead with it.
Basically, when COVID hit,
Yeah, okay.
COVID hit. What happened is I was quite fortunate in my job. So as I was kind of growing Soccer Stars in Lanarkshire, I was able to take a day off. So then work Monday to Thursday, and then I only done Monday to Wednesday, and then Monday Tuesday. So I was at that stage only 2 days teaching. And then I thought, I think I can really just now let's get out the job and let's really focus on Soccer Stars and kind of make it bigger. So basically quit the teaching at that point, and about a month later COVID hit. So
That
yeah,
great
so
leveler.
that was
But
funny.
funnily enough, and we talk about this often, like as much as like Mark had just left his job to do Soccer Stars full time, and then COVID hit, not one of us, and I don't remember us ever getting stressed about that.
Okay.
And I genuinely do believe it's because the two of us firmly knew it was going to work.
Yeah.
Like we had no question, we had no doubt in our mind that it was going to work. And I think that looking back now, I'm like, why? Like I'm an anxious person. I'm like, why were we alright about that? Why did we not
Oh, yeah.
stress?
Again, I'm not even joking about the kind of universe side, like directed super chill at you to just kind of okay, let this just transpire
Yeah.
and it grow. So like this, I know the answer to some of this, or I kind of think I do, but for everybody out there, how many franchises you got now?
25 at the moment, yeah, 25 throughout the UK.
That's amazing.
So
Like top, like how many? Where's the furthest up north you've got?
Aberdeen.
Inverness,
And then-
actually.
Is it?
Inverness.
Well done.
I'm surprised you know your actual geography better than me there, actually.
Geography has got
we should
better
have
since
done a
we
little
launched the
quiz between
franchise.
the two. And then what about down the way?
It's
London?
down in Cheshire
Crawley.
West, yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's Ollie down
Crawley.
there. One of our franchisees played with Crawley Town,
Right.
was a footballer and decided to take one of our franchises.
And who was your first?
First was my brother.
Right, okay.
Yeah, he was my brother. So during COVID, when it hit, I thought, right, okay, this is what it is. If I want a franchise, let's use this time.
Mhm.
Let's see if we can build a model that we can scale, or is it even franchisable? I don't know. I had no idea. So lucky enough that I got in touch with someone that worked with the British Franchise Association,
Mhm.
who basically, obviously asked a million and one question about what had happened and everything else, and said, yep, this could be a really kind of good franchise business for you. And he worked with me, helped me create the model, put me in touch with the lawyers for contracts and everything else, and professional mapping and all this. So he kind of guided me through the process of it, so that when we were coming out of lockdown, it was there, it was ready to go. It was just
okay,
ready to go.
Push the button.
So obviously before we done that, I thought, right, well, I need to trial it with someone. And my brother's like, I'll do it. And I'm like, right, okay. Where do you want? He's like, I'll do Glasgow area. I work in Glasgow. I know Glasgow well, so let's trial that in Glasgow. And we thought, right, well, you'll be a good guinea pig. We'll make all the mistakes and see what we can do.
I mean,
from
this
that.
is just great advice for people thinking about it. You know, it's
Yeah.
just a step-by-step thing. Don't, like, at least you're able to say to him without any, it's your brother, like, we don't do it like that, or we do it like this, or
Yes.
you can shape it a lot easier. But you don't want the first one out the door totally messing
Someone you
things
don't
up.
know as well.
Yeah.
And I think because of their relationship, like they could easily just be honest with each other and be like,
Yeah.
right, that's not worked,
Yeah.
or this has
Yeah.
worked.
Because he was the first.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the first that was non-family related then? Or kind of like the first one that actually, I want to know the first one that worried you to make you go, oh, like, because that one's the one that you're letting go of the reins.
The first one that worried me definitely was our first English franchise.
Yeah.
Just because we had never launched a class in England before, and we thought, is it the same sort of market? Is
Yeah.
it going to show different challenges? Like, we just really weren't sure at all. And it did. It showed different challenges, and it was a challenge getting it off the ground. And I think part of the reason why it was so successful in Scotland is because we built a massive reputation
Yeah,
and a
got a brand.
good brand in Lanarkshire. Edinburgh and Glasgow were the next ones, so then that kind of filtered out to there. And I think then just Scotland that eventually became aware of
Yeah.
Soccer Stars. As soon as we launched our first one in England, nobody had a clue who we were. Nobody knew us. And I think that building your brand from scratch again and a
Totally
new
new
community,
territory,
it's
yeah.
It's
absolutely
still an
so
ongoing
that
process as
it's
well.
absolutely, and that was worrying and challenging.
one thing I've not even mentioned, I think that another couple of questions. I think I've kept you here quite a long time. Was the fact that you were probably, I mean, you must have been in the first 50 customers of Class for Kids. You must have been, looking back, because as we said, we had a discovery site, which is basically a listing site that was live before we became an actual software provider.
Yep.
But you've been using us since day one.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. I was one of the first ones, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I had no idea.
Again, the balloons were meant to come down there.
No, where's that confetti again?
It's not working. Well, I need to get that fixed up there. But yeah, so that's really interesting. So you've came on with us as a club.
Yeah.
Then you had 2 clubs.
Yep.
Then you franchised. Was the software, how did the software work for you in that respect? Did we support? I mean, what we don't necessarily always do on this podcast is go into like actually pimping the product. But in this instance, it's quite interesting because it's been what I mean. You've not went, I'm going to start a franchise. You've went and then grown and grown and grown with us, and we've grown with you as well. So it's just an interesting how that's kind of went. How's that journey been?
It's been great. So when we first started Soccer Stars, it was very much spreadsheets,
Okay.
and it was who's beaten the class this week, who wants to sign up, and you're going back and forth the spreadsheets. And it got to a point, even when I was running 1 or 2 venues, it was getting unmanageable, and a lot of my time was getting spent on admin stuff, which I didn't want it to be. So I decided, is there anything out there that I can get a booking system that's going to make my life easier? And yeah, just came across Class for Kids.
Literally like that.
Literally like that. Literally Google searches, came across Class for Kids.
Weird that it's from the same city.
And that was a big thing.
That was
isn't it?
actually a selling point for
Yeah.
us
Right,
because
okay.
it was
Scottish-based
local.
company.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe
Yeah.
it. I'm like, they're for Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, right, okay. So yeah, reached out, and we were just asking there. It was Seema that got in
Seema.
touch with me. Yeah.
Oh, she's not in today. She's
Yeah.
just back from maternity leave as well.
Yeah.
She would be sitting there if she was here. But that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so she kind of got me set up, and that was it from there. It was like all of a sudden it was just a game changing moment. There was the admin was more than halved, and allowed me then to think, right, okay, so that I've got everything in place. I can now open another club. And then when we thought about franchising, I had a look at the system. I thought, I don't really need anything else. It's- The system works for franchising. It literally works for franchising. It's just a case of adding new systems to what's there.
And it's great from a franchisor point of view
Yeah.
because Mark and I can get access to all of the franchise
Of course.
systems. It makes it really, really easy and user friendly to go into each, and it's literally just a clone of our system.
Yeah.
It's literally the exact same copy paste for every one of our franchise territories. Can't get my words out. And like I think it was Tracy earlier on when I was talking to her.
Yeah.
I was like, we've looked at options to get our own system built, integrated into our own website. It's just not worth it for us. Like, we wouldn't see really a return on that. We also don't get we wouldn't have the support
Support's the
that
big
you
technical
guys, and that's
support.
huge
Right,
for
you know.
us, because especially now that when we're growing our franchise network, there's so many other things that they require from Class for Kids that Mark and I can't answer.
Yeah.
We're like, guys, you need to speak to Class for Kids about that because you are the experts.
Well, that's what's good as well. Is that the
Aye.
support's there
Yeah.
for that. We've got a number of people that we obviously over the years that have come to us from their own systems that they've had, and the problem's been sometimes it's been like absolutely top notch, fit for purpose for a while. Then, but they've used like a developer that they've found somewhere that's no longer in touch with them, or the platforms. I don't know lots about code and script, but JavaScript and HTML, and all, they all change.
Yeah.
You got these things on the site. I mean, it's like us when we integrated with Access, who is our parent company now. So much had to be done to the product in the back end that was like just to keep the product up to date. That's what our guys have been great at doing.
Yep.
That's what a lot of the time goes into from devs. And if you've not got one
Absolutely.
there, they've built something for you. It's like building a car and going, right, I'm away. You've not got any mechanics.
Absolutely.
You can't put any oil in this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the wheels knacker, good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, Siobhan was talking about there about their kind of our own kind of system. That wasn't a case of, that was more from a, right, well, the big players in the market have their own system. So
Yeah.
should we have our own system? But we're like,
Why?
but why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we have to create our own system when we have a brilliant system there? we don't need it, and it's not like Class for Kids are a small company that are going to be gone overnight now.
No, I think that's
They're a massive company.
And I
so
also think as well, from a visibility point of view, like on all your search engines, from an SEO point of view, not only are people searching for football classes for kids and finding us, but I actually done this maybe a couple of weeks ago, and you've got number 1, 2 and 3 of the search results on Google are either our website or Class for Kids.
Yeah.
Because it's a search engine itself.
So that's it. That listing site works really well for SEO.
Yeah.
I was saying before as well, it's the length of time it's actually been out there. That's been here longer than the product, so it's probably about a 10-year-old search engine that's there that's just been feeding Google this whole time.
That's
So it's good to see that the club results that do come up, like yours is first, though.
But and actually sometimes Class for Kids is first.
Cool.
So this is why I'm thinking, why would we need our own system when we've got, from that point of view as well, we've got visibility on Google at the top.
You can have your own system, and I think you
ranks.
can have your own. You can even have your own devs that do work on it and update it. You're going to be paying them a fortune.
That's exactly,
you know.
yeah.
And when you've got like a platform fee with us, and that's inclusive of the picking up the phone and that's what we've definitely got above our competitors. The more and more further into the business I go is the customer support side, and the fact that we are literally at the end of the phone. I mean, you've probably got James's number.
Yeah, get James' number,
it's
but
just
even for the franchisees, they know that if they have got a problem, they can send a message in and they'll get an answer within 15, 20 minutes. They'll be back.
What a great couple. What a great business. What a great, just great story. And the universe brought them together.
Yeah.
How did they not know that? Like, guys, that was right there. Like, it was, anyway, I think that's fantastic. It literally, the universe brought them together. You had a bit of a background with Mark because you'd interviewed him before, and on the podcast, as you've just heard or watched, the very first customer I interacted with at Class for Kids, because when I joined, lockdown happened right afterwards, and then we had 2 years that we don't even talk about. After that, it was like, right, okay, let's go and start meeting customers again, talking to them, filming them. It was a Soccer Stars franchise down in Newcastle. It turned out it was his brothers.
Yeah.
It's just so random, do you know what I mean? So I've got a little bit of past history with Soccer Stars there, but the franchise itself, I loved what this kid Jordan, who we're still going to come for you, Jordan, is doing with AI for the club. That is just insane. It's way ahead of its time, and right on the cusp of all this technology. Using us as well, adopting us very, very early on, and just adapting.
Yeah, always kind of forward thinking, always thinking how he can run his business like as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So he's like, the technology obviously is a big step forward, and he's been embracing that every step of the way.
Yep.
And it's a bit of a comeback story as well when he was talking about his injury, when he was touted by the biggest clubs in the country, and for something like that to happen to somebody, there was lots of avenues he could have went that could have impacted him negatively, but he's proper turned it into like a success story.
And you know, for us, as we said at the very top of this podcast, who have got no real knowledge of football at all, not knowing any of that, that's almost it's almost a blessing when it comes to to talking to these people and telling these people's stories. That I don't have any insight at all until now on the ins and outs of how you would maybe be picked up at 16 and then a club would take you and then he would be injured, but then a club would actually pay for his rehabilitation.
Yeah.
To the point where they didn't in the end, but I didn't know about any of this. So it's like, I'm learning, guys. I'm learning. Give me the opportunity to prove to you that in a year's time, you could put me on a football pitch and I could commentate on it. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I believe in you.
Okay.
I believe in you. We need to get the wee mics in here for like a football podcast for now on that the commentators use.
Oh, yeah.
See the ones that they hold right up to their mouth and it
It's
goes
like square. And it's
Aye.
like horse racing.
Aye.
Straight to horse racing.
John
What I'm trying to
McCurrick,
do.
innit?
That's exactly it. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode of In the Club. And there's only one thing for me to say, and I'm going to say it alone because he's not been saying it himself. But if you're listening, Brian's waving, okay? He's waving, and I'll just do it. Bye.